you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
Oh!
Good afternoon, College of Education, Wally. And Princess Nicole S. Lugan,
I'm Heidi De La Paz Gutierrez,
your host for today's webinar. Professionalizing the teaching industry advances the profession as a whole and it goes long way to create better opportunities for the student's success.
Education is the passport to the future, belongs to the people, for it today. I am a future teacher and awakener that the art of a teaching is the art of assessing discovery.
Before we finally proceed to our agenda for today, let's have Ms. Sheila May Badwa to lead us for a prayer and give us some motivational quotes and messages for life.
Let us all pray. Let's bow our head, close our eyes, and feel the presence of our God. Yes, Lord Father God, pinupuri at pinapasalamatan ka po namin sa lahat ng bagay na nagawa mo para sa amin. Lord, salamat po sa buhay na pinagkaloob mo. Salamat po sa knowledge and wisdom na ginagamit namin at patuloy namin gagamitin. Salamat po sa mga blessings sa patuloy na pinagkakaloob, sa pag-iingat, sa pagpamahal, at sa paglalayo mo sa amin sa lahat ng sakit o ng anumang kapahamakan, Panginoon. Salamat po. Panginoon, nangingi po kami ng kapatawaran sa lahat ng nagawa namin kasalanan. Sinasadya man po o hindi, maliit man o malaki. Panginoon, patawarin mo po kami. Sansalain mo nga po ang bawat isa. Patuloy mo po kaming baguhin sa bawat araw na dumarating sa aming buhay. Lord, I am praying for all people na dumaranas ng kahit anong sakit. Pagkalingin mo po sila, maging ang mga tao, Panginoon, na masigla at walang karamdamang nararamdaman. Ingatan mo po. I-bless mo po ang bawat isa. Lord, patuloy mo pong bigyan kami ng kalakasan, ng katalinuhan. Nawa, Panginoon, ay ingatan mo po ang mga frontliners, sa mga nurses, doctors, soldiers, maging teachers, Panginoon. Alam ko po na dumaranas din po ang mga teachers ng hindi maayos na karamdaman. Lord, ingatan mo po at i-bless ang mga isa. Patuloy mo po kami gabayan sa aming pag-aaral, sa aming pagkalinga, sa aming buhay. Sa bawat araw, Lord, patuloy mo po kami baguhin. Ingatan mo po ang bawat isa. Lord, I am praying for our life na sana ikaw ang maging sentro nito. At sa iyo po namin isinusuko ang lahat-lahat ng mararanasan ng aming buhay. Ito po ang naman sa dalangin sa matamis na pangalan ni Jesus. Amen. So for our food for thought, I just want to share with you guys my latest devotion which entitled Our Favor Have a Process. So on Psalms chapter 60 verse 22, when the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. So gusto ko lang tanungin na may prayer ka ba ngayon? Naranasan mo na ba na yung prayer mo nabigo? Naranasan mo na bang humiling kay Lord pero hindi pa niya natutupad kaya sumuko ka na lang? For this verse, let me give you some examples of favor, which are, Lord, give me knowledge and wisdom naman po kasi malapit na yung exam. Lord, I'm praying for my love twins. Ganyan. Yung boyfriend or girlfriend ko po, Lord, nasan na? Meron naman sa iba sa atin na Lord, ikaw na po ang bahala sa financial namin. Financially, di ba, humihiling siya. So, kahit ano namang hilingin natin sa Kanya is okay. Pero, handa ba tayo sa magiging resulta? Handa ba tayo sa resulta ng mga hinihiling natin? Kasi meron iba sa atin na hiling lang ng hiling pero hindi natin iniisip na kaya ba natin yon? Deserve ba natin agad yun? Or yun na ba yung karapat-dapat sa atin na mangyari? So for this verse, tinuturoan din tayo ni Lord kung paano matuto. For examples, doon sa may knowledge and wisdom. Kung gusto mong makamit yun, samahan mo ng gawa. Financially din, samahan mo ng gawa. Hindi pwedeng prayer lang ng prayer. Kailangan samahan mo ng gawa. Paano ka ba matututo? Paano ka ba magkakapera? Diba? Ganon. So, kung gusto mong makakamit yun, samahan mo ng gawa. Hindi yung gagawa ka ng masama para lang matupad yung mga hinihiling mo sa kanya. Like for example, dun sa nanghihingi siya ng talino para sa exam niya na papalapit. So dito, may iba sa atin na hindi naman talaga nag-aaral. Hindi sila nag-aaral. Tapos, pagdating ng exam, nagpe-pray. Tapos kapag wala na silang maisip, ayun na, doon na sila gumagawa ng kasalanan. Either gumagawa ng kodiko. Sa financially naman, gumagawa na sila ng masama, like nagnanakaw, kumukuha ng kung ano, para lang magkapera. So, yun yung mga process na kailangan nating pagdaanan. Kailangan nating mag-isip, gumawa ng paraan at umakto. Gumawa ng kung ano yung pwede natin gawin para makamit yun. And doon sa may loved ones, ayan. Marami sa atin na kabataan pa lang pero ganun na yung hinihiling. Dito naman, oo, humihiling ka. Tapos kapag binigay ni Lord, hindi naman sinabi yan ni Lord na yun tamang tao para sa'yo. Ang gusto ni Lord, matuto tayo. Tapos kapag nasaktan, umasa, sisisihin si Lord na, Lord, bakit ganyan? Pero hindi mo alam na yun yung process ni Lord. Sabi nga sa Philippians chapter 1 verse 29, God never allows pain without a purpose. Ano yung purpose na masaktan tayo? Diba matuto? And sabi pa din sa may John chapter 14 verse 1, let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God. Believe also in me. Maniwala ka sa Kanya. Lahat ng plano niya, totoo at epektado. Lahat ng plano niya, nakakabuti. Everything has a process. Sometimes, we are experiencing sadness because we think it negatively. We think that we fail because favors to Him have a right time. There are things that we are not yet ready. Hindi pa tayo ready dun sa mga pinagpipray natin na yun. Sometimes, we think that God will never allowed do it. That's why we find ways for that, even if it is wrong. If you are in a season of waiting, may I encourage you with this? A delay is not a denial. When you think God is saying no, He may just be saying not yet. He has only the best in mind for His children. Sabi ko nga, alam niya ang lahat. According to Philippians chapter 1 verse 6, have patience, God isn't it finished yet.
To give us entertainment and chilling time, let us all vibe with Miss Nicole Lugod.
tulad mo. Hanggat ang puso mo'y sa akin lang, hindi ka na malilang. Ikaw ang ilaw sa dilim at ang liwanag ng mga bituin. Ako'y alipin ang pag-ibig mo, handang ipin ang santulan mo. Hanggat ang puso mo'y sa akin lang, hindi ka na malilang. Ikaw ang ilaw sa dilim at ang liwanag ng mga bituin. Escapism. So, ayan partner, kumusta ka naman?
Okay naman ako, partner. So, ano nga bang pag-uusapan natin ngayon?
Good to know, partner! Alam mo, super excited na ako ipakilala yung mga speaker natin for today's webinar.
But before that, partner, gano'n nga ba kahalaga ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon? At sino-sino nga ba ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon? O sino nga ba ang pag-uusapan natin ngayon?
Tama ka dyan, partner. Ang title ng webinar natin for today ay Sa Classroom May Batas, Road to the Professionalization of Teaching. And in this topic, we will be able to know the importance of the Philippine educational system, the laws and amendments that support the teaching profession.
Whereas the Constitution provides that all educational institutions shall be under the supervision of and subject to regulation by the state, and requires that the state shall establish and maintain a complete, adequate, and integrated system of education relevant to the goals of national development. Whereas, in the pursuit on these objectives, the Department of Education and Culture has adopted ways and means of overseeing all the educational institutions in the country. Whereas, this supervisory function of the DEC has been primarily beamed towards ensuring that the educational institutions inculcate in the studentry love of the country, teach the duties of citizenship, and develop moral character, personal disciplines, and scientific, technological, and vocational efficiency. Whereas, to implement these objectives, the institutions have relied upon their teachers with direct and continuing interaction with the young people, and the children make them potent forces for the development of the proper attitudes among the citizenry. Whereas, this accounts for the tremendous growth of the teaching population, comprising in the civil service sector alone more than 300,000 teachers deployed all over the country. Whereas, to ensure that in the immediacy and urgency of teacher recruitment qualitative requirements are not overlooked, it has become necessary to regulate the teaching profession. Whereas, although teaching requires a number of years of collegiate study, it is the only course that is not yet considered a profession. Whereas, in recognition of the vital role of teachers in nation building and as an incentive to raise the morale of teachers, it is imperative that they can be considered as professionals and teaching be recognized as a profession.
To fully understand the personalization of teaching, I am glad to introduce to you the first speaker for this afternoon. He believes that embracing your flaws can help you and bend it to become your strength. I am glad to present to you Mr. Justin N. Tibay with the title Basic Law of Unprofessionalization of Teaching, Presidential Decree Number 1006, Section 1976.
A wonderful day to everyone. I'm about to discuss and tell you the decree of the late President Ferdinand E. Marcos about the role, the duties of teaching refers to a profession and the National Board for Teachers. Section 1. This decree shall be known as the Decree of Professionalizing Teaching. Stated that the professionalization of teachers, regulating their practice here in the Philippines, and for them to do it, they have to pass the licensure examination for teacher first and the civil service exam. Section 2. Declaration of Policy. It is hereby declared the policy that teacher education shall be given primary concern and attention by the government and shall be of the highest quality and strongly oriented to Philippine conditions and to the needs and aspirations of the Filipino people, even as it seeks enrichment from adaptable ideas and practices of other people. So, dapat daw binibigyan ng pansin at pagpapahalaga at atensyon ng gobyerno natin ang mga guro at dapat daw nagtatagla ito ng mataas na kalidad nang sa ganun ay matugunan nito ang mga pangangailangan at pangarap ng mga Pilipino. Section 3. Definition of terms. As used in this decree, the following shall be construed as follows. A. Teaching refers to the profession. Primary concern in teaching at the elementary and secondary levels in accordance with the curriculum prescribed by the National Board of Education, whether on a part-time or full-time basis, or in public or private schools. So, A. Ang pagtuturo daw ay isang propesyon na ang pangunahing concern nito ay sa pagtuturo, pwedeng sa elementarya or sa secondary levels. Nasa sa iyo din if magpo-full-time ka or part-time lang ang pagtuturong gagawin mo. And choice mo din yon kung sa public or private school ka magtuturo. B. Teachers refer to all persons engaged in teaching at the elementary or secondary levels, whether on a full-time or part-time basis, including guidance counselor, school librarians, industrial arts or vocational teachers, and all other persons who is performing supervisory administrative functions in all school in the aforesaid levels and legally qualified to practice teaching under this decree. So, ang guru daw ay isang pangkalahatan as long as nag-engage sila ng pagtuturo sa school or naggagampanan nila yung pagsusupervise sa pag-administer sa mga tao. Katulad na lang ng guidance counselor, school librarians, at marami pang iba. As long as capable sila to do it, and dahil nga ang mga teachers are flexible. So C. Board refers to the National Board for Teachers duly constituted under this decree. So, meron tayong tinatawag na grupo ng mga professionals na sila ang responsible sa pag-produce ng magaling na mga guro dito sa Pilipinas. Sila ang National Board for Teachers. So, Section 4. Creation of the National Board for Teachers. There is hereby created the National Board for Teachers, hereinafter called the Board, to be composed of the following: the co-chairman and the members. Under the co-chairman is where the Secretary of Education and Culture Chairman, and also the Civil Service Commission. But under the members are the Commissioner, Professional Regulation Commissions, and 2 members representing the private sector to be appointed by the President. So, Section 5. The powers and duties. The board shall have the following powers and duties. A. Appoint a set of examiners for every examination who will determine and prepare the contents of the board examination for teachers, hereinafter referred to as examination, in the elementary and secondary levels of instruction to be held at the least once a year. So, ang National Board for Teachers ay may kakayahang mag-appoint ng examiners every year dahil taon-taon naman nagaganap ito. B. Determine and fix the places and dates of examination. Appoint supervisors and rooms examiners from among the employees of the government, who shall be entitled to a daily allowance to be fixed by the board for every examination they actually attended. Use the buildings and facilities of public and private schools for examination purposes. Approve application to take examination and approve the release of examination results. So, gampanin din nilang humanap ng lugar na pagdarausan ng exam at mag-fix ng date. Meron din silang pribilehiyo na gumamit ng private or public school And gamitin nila yung buildings and facilities nito. Para naman ito sa examination purposes. So C. Look from time to time into the conditions affecting the practice of teachings profession. Adopt such measure as may be deemed proper for the enhancement of said profession, and or maintenance or maintain the professional standards and ethics. So, duty rin nila na i-check on time kung effective pa ba ang mga teachers dahil kailangan nilang ma-maintain ang professionalization standard at ethics ng mga guro. D. Issue, suspend, revoke, replace, or reissue professional teacher certificate and administrative oaths. So, kaya na nilang mag-issue at magsuspinde at bawiin sa'yo yung professional teacher certificate mo. So, E. Appoint subject to the provisions of existing laws, such officials and employees as are necessary in the effective performance of its function and responsibilities, prescribe their duties, and fix their compensation. So, may kakayahan din silang mag-appoint ng mga empleyado kapag maganda ang ipinapakita nilang performance. So, F. Prescribe and collect examination and other fees as it may deem proper. And sila rin ang may karapatang magbigay at mangolekta ng mga exam. G. Promulgate rules and regulation and exercise such other powers, function and duties are may be necessary to carry into effect purposes of this decree. So, meron din silang karapatan magpatupad ng sarili nilang rules and regulation para sa ikagaganda at ikuunlad ng kalidad ng edukasyon. Section 6. Qualification requirements for examination applicants. No applicant shall be admitted to take the examination unless, on the date of filing of the application, he or she shall have complied with the following requirements. A. Except those who have been engaged in teaching as herein defined for at least 5 years in school in the Philippines, not organized exclusively for nationals of a foreign country at the time of the effectivity of this decree. The applicants must be a citizens of the Philippines. So, kailangan citizen ka ng Pilipinas dahil dito ka nag-aral, dito ka magte-take ng exam, and dito ka rin magtatrabaho. So, you have to be a citizens of the Philippines. And, saka, tayong mga Pinoy, alam na natin ang buhay dito sa Pinas at kung paano tayo mag-a-adjust sa pagtuturo para matugunan natin ang mga pangangailangan ng mga estudyante natin. So, B. That he is of good moral character. So, nararapat lang na taglayin ng mga applicants itong moralidad na ito dahil nararapat lang na may maganda dapat tayong pag-uugali or yung mga incoming teachers natin dahil tayo dapat ang magiging magandang ehemplo sa kabataan dahil tayo ang hubog sa kanila. C. That he is free from any physical or mental defect which will incapacitate him to render efficient service. So, meron din kailangan din na wala silang sakit sa utak at wala rin silang kakulangan sa pangangatawan dahil makakaapekto ito sa kanilang pagtuturo at magiging inefficient sila. So, baka hindi nila magampanan yung tungkulin nila bilang teacher. So, D. That possesses the following minimum educational qualification. Number 1. For teachers in kindergarten and elementary grades, bachelor's degree in elementary education or BSE Ed. So, number 1, sa mga mahilig sa bata at gustong magturo sa kindergarten or sa elementary, meron tayong bachelor's degree in elementary education. So, number 2, for teachers of secondary schools, bachelor's degree in education or its equivalent with a major and minor, or a bachelor's degree in arts and science, with at least 18 units in professional education. So, para naman sa mga magtuturo sa sekundarya, meron ding Bachelor of Secondary Education na nagtataglay ng major and minor subjects at may 18 units in professional education. So, number 3. For teachers of secondary vocational and 2-year technical courses, bachelor degrees in the field of specialization with at least 18 units in professional education. All applicants shall be filed with an offices designated by the board, preferably the offices, the Civil Service Commission, and the Department of Education and Culture. These offices shall be screened and approved such applicants and issue the corresponding permits to take examination to qualify applicants. So, number 3. Para naman sa mga vocational and 2 years technical courses, meron din yan. We have the bachelor degree in a field of specialization na narapat din na ma-attain ang 18 units in professional education at ang lahat ng yan ay ibabalidate ng National Board for Teachers. Section 7. Appointment of examiners. The board shall appoint a set of examiners for every examination who are recognized authority in teachers' education, and their names shall not be disclosed until after the release of the results of the examination. They shall have each receive as compensation the sum of not less than 5 pesos for each examinee, as be determined by the board, but not in no case shall each examiner receive more than 18,000 per examination. And examiners who is the service of the government shall receive the compensation herein provided in addition to his salary. So, ang board daw nararapat na mag-set ng examiners every year dahil annually may mga gumagraduate na incoming teachers, and of course magtitake sila ng board exam para magkaroon sila ng lisensya. At hindi daw dapat na ibulgar agad ang pangalan ng mga examiners or examinees hanggat wala pa ang resulta nito or the result of the board examination for teachers. Section 8. Scope of the examination. The examination shall consist of the written test, the scope of which shall be determined by the board, taking into consideration the teaching plan of the schools legally constituted here in the Philippines. So, ang examination daw ay written test. Section 9. Ratings in the examination. In order that a candidate may be deemed to have successfully passed the examination, he or she must have obtained a general average of 70% in all subjects, and with no ratings below 50% in any subject. So, para ikaw ay makapasa, dapat ang general average mo ay 70% sa lahat ng subject at hindi dapat bababa sa 50% in any subjects. Paano naman kung hindi nakapasa? Oh, bakit? Katapusan na ba ng mundo? Meron pang next year. Chill ka lang. Trust yourself and better luck next time. So, Section 10. Report of the results of examination. The examiners shall report the ratings obtained by each candidate to the board within 150 days after the last day of examination, unless extended by the latter. So, within 150 days lang daw ang pag-report sa board ng ratings na nakuha mo, pero sometimes nag-a-adjust ito kapag may nangyaring aberya, of course, ma-adjust to. So, Section 11. Issuance of certificates. Teachers who have passed examination given by the Civil Service Commission or jointly by the Civil Service Commission and the Department of Education and Culture shall be considered as having passed the board examination for teachers. The board may consider their certificate upon registration of the teachers and payment of the corresponding fees. The provision shall likewise apply to those teachers who have permanent appointment under the Magna Carta for public school teachers, and shall all others who may be qualified for registration as professional teachers under this decree. So, lahat daw ng nakapasang guro sa pangunan ng Civil Service at Department of Education and Culture ay sila rin ang nagko-consider ng kapag nakapasa ka na sa board exam. At ang Magna Carta for Public School Teachers, ito ang pumaprotekta sa professional rights ng mga guro. So, Section 12. Registration. The Civil Service Exam or the Civil Service Commission shall, as an arm of the board, register holders of professional teachers certificate, which registration shall be evidence that he, registrant, is entitled to all the rights and privileges of professional teachers until and unless the certificate is suspended or cancelled by the board for just a cause. So, ang Civil Service Commission daw ay nagsisilbing kamay ng board, and sila rin ang nag-hold ng professional certificate ng mga teachers. At matatamasa daw ng mga nakapasang teacher ang pribilehiyo at karapatan nila bilang guro. Pero, maka-cancel ito pag sinuspindi ng board ang certificate mo. Malay mo, mayroon kang inefficient na ginawa or may nilabag ka. So, of course, babawin sa'yo yung certificate mo. So, Section 13. The reissuance of revoked certificates and replacement of lost certificates. The board may, for reason of equity and justice, and upon proper application, therefore, issue another copy, original or duplicate, upon payment of the required fee of a certificate which has been revoked. A new certificate to replace a lost, destroyed, or mutilated certificate may be issued subject to the rules of the board. So, kapag naman nawala yung certificate mo or natanggal sa'yo, ngayon, kung ang rason ay equity and may justice naman, mag-i-issue uli sila ng original. Kapag naman nasira o kaya naman na-issue or na-damage, pwede mo siyang isurrender sa National Board for Teachers and mag-i-issue sila ng panibago. Section 14. Registration by reciprocity. The Civil Service Commission shall, upon approval of the board, effect the registration without examination of a teacher's validity registered under the laws of any foreign state or country, provided that the requirements of registration in said of foreign state or country are substantially the same as those required and contemplated by this decree. And the laws of such foreign countries or allow citizens of the Philippines to practice the profession on the same basis and grant the same privileges as the citizens or subjects of such foreign state or country, provided finally that the applicants shall submit competent and conclusive documentary evidence confirmed by the Department of the Foreign Affairs showing that his country's existing laws permit citizens thereof. Section 15. Prohibitions. 3 years after the effectivity of this decree, no person shall engage in teachings and or act as a teacher as defined in the decree, whether in the public or private elementary or secondary school, unless he is holder of a professional teacher certificate or in considered as a professional teacher under this decree. So, kapag hindi ka naman nakapasa or natapos ka naman sa kursong education, meron kang 3 taon para magturo. And this is your allotted time para mag-take ka ng board exam. Pero pag hindi ka nakapasa within that year, of course, hindi ka makakapagturo because license is the key. Section 16. Penal provision. Any person who shall practice the teachings without a valid professional teacher certificate or any presenting as his or her own the certificate of another, or any person giving any false or forged evidence in order to be obtained a professional teacher certificate or admission to an examination, or any person assuming himself as a registered professional teacher, or any person violating any provision of this decree, shall be penalized by fine of not less than 1,000 pesos nor more than 5,000 pesos, with months nor more than 2 years, or not less than 6 months of imprisonment or no more than 2 years, or both such fine and imprisonment at the same or at the discretion of the court. So, lahat daw ng walang professional certificate at nagpa-practice ng teaching at namimeke at nag-a-assume na sila ay registered teacher ay magmumulta, or pag nahuli ka, magmumulta ka ng 1,000 pesos to 5,000 pesos. At makukulong ka ng 6 months o higit pa ng 2 taon. So, sad. But, sige, peki pa mo. So, Section 17. Repealing clause. All acts, decrees, executive orders, administrative orders, rules and regulations, or parts thereof inconsistent with the provisions of this decree are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. Section 18. Separability clause. In case any provisions of this decree of any portion thereof is declared unconstitutional by a competent court, other provisions shall not be affected thereby. So, Section 19. Effectivity. This decree shall take effect January 1, 1997. So, yung effectivity daw ng decree ni President Ferdinand E. Marcos ay nagsimula noong January 1, 1997 and up to this day and so on. That's all. Thank you.
Are you still alive, Co-Ed 1E? The next speaker believes that measure your success by how you learn and how you grow, not how money you earn. He is Mr. John Miko P. Sacristan to give us knowledge about examination and registration of all professional teachers.
Good day everyone, I'm John Luis C. Adesas from COED 1E. Today I will going to discuss the Republic Act 7836, also known as Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. This act was signed on December 16, 1994. It is an act to strengthen the regulation and supervision of the practice of teaching in the Philippines and prescribing a licensure examination for teachers and for other purposes. Before we proceed to the sections under this act, kilalanin muna natin kung sino ba yung author nito. So, si Senator Edgardo J. Angara is the author of Republic Act 7836. Sino ba si Senator Edgardo J. Angara? Siya ay isang Filipino politician who served as the President of the Senate of the Philippines from 1993 to 1995. He believes that teachers are the front line of our efforts to advance our country's development through education. He said that they are the unsung heroes who day in and out serve our country and dedicate their lives in shaping Filipino youth. Despite low wages and many lacks of our educational system, patuloy sila sa kanilang tungkulin upang makatulong sa ating bayan. So, he pursued this law to be enacted to ensure teachers' welfare and in terms of increasing their salaries and benefits and as well as enhancing teacher training and education. And now, let's proceed to the Article 1. This article recognizes the vital role that teachers play in developing responsible and literate citizens. Under this article is Section 1, which is the short title. As I mentioned earlier, this act is also known as Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. In order to ensure a responsible and literate citizen, this law was enacted para din makapag-regulate ng mga licensure examination all over the Philippines for the professionalization of teaching profession. Section 2 and 3. The statement of the policy and the objectives. In these sections, the primary concern is on teachers, the roles of teachers in nation building, professionalization of teachers, and the supervision and regulation of licensure examination, which is objectives or the main concern why this act was enacted. The roles of teachers in nation building. Napakahalaga ng papel na ginagampanan ng mga teachers in our society, and it plays a vital role in nation building. If there is no teaching profession, there is no other profession. Kasi kung walang magtuturo, kung wala ang mga teachers, walang magiging nurse, doktor, police, lawyer, architect, engineer, at iba pa. So, para ma-recognize yung significant role of teachers in our nation, this law was enacted. Section 4, Definition of Terms. For purposes of this act, the following terms shall mean: teachers, teaching, board, and commission. The teaching profession is refers and concerned primarily with classroom instruction, while teachers are all persons engaged in teaching in different levels and fields. The board refers to the Board for Professional Teachers, and the commission is which refers to the PRC or the Philippine Regulation Commission. And now let's proceed to Article 2, the Board for Professional Teachers. The main concern of Republic Act 7836 is maging lisensyado ang mga teachers, and ngunit paano mangyayari yun? So under Article 2 ay pag-uusapan natin yan. And under this is the composition and creation of the board, its duties and functions, the term of office kung gaano katagal pwede manungkulan yung mga maa-appoint in this position, and the qualifications, the supervision, compensation, and the removal of the board, all of that ay mapag-uusapan natin under Article 2. So, paano ba nabubuo ang Board for Professional Teachers? According to Article 2, Section 5, there is a hereby created under this Act a Board for Professional Teachers, hereinafter called the Board, a collegial body under the supervision and administrative control of the Professional Regulation Commission, meaning to say, ang PRC or Professional Regulation Commission ang mangangasiwa sa mga gaganaping licensure examinations here in the Philippines. So, the PRC board members is composed of 5 members. And yung mga 5 members na to ay i-appoint ng President of the Philippines. The PRC board members ay hindi basta-bastang pinipili. Mayroong mga qualifications if gusto mo maging member nito. So, under Section 8 of the Republic Act 7836 ay makikita natin yun, which is entitled The Qualification of the Board Members. So, here are the qualifications para maging isang ERC board member. So, letter A, dapat ikaw ay residente ng Pilipinas, and B, at least 35 years of age and proven yung integridad mo, and dapat mayroon kang high moral value. Siyempre, dapat din degree holder ka, whether a master's degree or doctorate degree in education or other equivalents. Letter D, be a professional teacher with a valid certificate of registration and valid professional license. So, syempre, dapat kung gusto mo maging PRC board members, may lisensya ka bilang isang teacher. Letter E, has been a professional teacher in the active practice of the teaching profession for at least 10 years. So, sa lahat naman ng pinag-a-apply nating trabaho, especially this Board for Professional Teachers, kinakailangan mayroon kang experience. And dito, ang kailangan mo lang experience ay may experience ka in the teaching profession for at least 10 years in elementary and secondary level. So, the last qualification, letter F, not be an official member of faculty in any university, school, college, institution for at least 3 years. So, bakit kailangan ganon? Kasi for example, galing yung maa-appoint na board members dito sa school natin, which is NEUST. Maaaring ma-question yung integridad nila kasi may possibility na mag-leak sila ng mga tanong sa examinations. So, ayaw ng PRC ng ganon. Gusto nila, they ensure na malinis and fair and wala silang mapapanigan na mga university or review centers. Kaya, they include this as one of the qualification of the board members. Ngayong alam na natin yung mga qualifications, alamin naman natin yung mga duties and functions of the board and kung gaano katagal yung term of office nila. So, under Section 6 and 7 of Republic Act 7836, makikita natin ito. And Section 6, duties and functions of the board. The board shall have the following duties and functions. The board shall enforce the Act, organize licensure examination, issue, suspend, and revoke certificate of registration, and ensure all educational institutions offering elementary and secondary education comply with the essential requirements for curricula, faculty, and facilities. Section 7, the term of office. The members of the board shall hold office for a term of 3 years, meaning sa loob ng isang term ay mayroon kang 3 years to serve. And no person who has served for 2 consecutive years shall be eligible for reappointment. Meaning to say, na kapag naka 6 years ka na or naka 2 terms ka na, hindi ka na pwedeng ma-appoint ulit. So, may possibility ba na ma-remove ka as PRC board members? Yes, meron. Pero hindi ka naman ganun-ganun na lang sisibakin or tatanggalin in your position because under Section 12 of this Act, nakasaad ang removal of the board member. Sinasabi dito na the chairman or any member of the board may be removed by the position upon the recommendation of the commission. Ang presidente ay may power to appoint kung sino yung mga iluluklok niya in the position of PRC board members at siya rin ang may karapatan na magsibak ng mga nakaupo. So, pero bakit ka naman aalisin? Matatanggal ka lang if you neglect your duty for being incompetent, unprofessional, unethical, immoral, or dishonorable conduct. Pero despite of that, bibigyan ka pa rin naman ng chance to defend yourself in a proper administrative investigation.
Are you still alive, Co-Ed 1E? The next speaker believes that measure your success by how you learn and how you grow, not how money you earn. He is Mr. John Miko P. Sacristan to give us knowledge about examination and registration of all professional teachers.
So for Article 3 examination and registration, so for Section 13 examination, registration, and license required, ito po ay mahalagang alam natin bilang tayo po ay mga profession or mga future examiners and future board posters, hopefully. Dahil dito po nakapaloob po sa section na ito na lahat po ng applicants for professional teaching or professional teachers ay nire-required po na mag-take ng examination or ng board examination. So ito pong board examination ay binibigay po at least once a year sa itinakdang araw at lugar ng board. So ito po ay naprubahan din ng commission bago po itakda yung mga araw at lugar na yun. So, nahalaga po kasi yung pagkakaroon natin ng valid certificate of registration at saka valid professional license. So, bakit po yun mahalaga? Kasi yung mga bagay na yun, yung magiging daan para po tayo ay makapagturo professionally as teachers dito sa bansa natin. Makapagturo tayo ng professional teaching sa bansa natin professionally. So, kaya mahalaga na alam natin yung bilang tayo ay mga future teachers. So, for Section 14 naman, so nakapaloob lang po dito sa scope of examination, ang sakop ng examination ng bawat examiners. So, ang examination for elementary and secondary teachers po ay magkahiwalay. So, ang examination for teachers sa elementary level ay nagko-consist po ng 2 parts, which are general education and professional education. And then for teachers naman po sa secondary level ay nagko-consist ng 3 parts, which is general education, professional education, and field of specialization. Sabihin tayo ay mga future board examiners, mahalaga na alam natin to para if ever na tayo na yung mag-exam in the future ay meron tayong idea about sa scope ng examination natin. So, for Section 15, qualification requirements of applicants, dito po nakapaloob lamang po sa section na ito na para po tayo ay makapag-take ng board examination, kailangan po ay na-complied po muna natin bilang applicant or bilang aplikante lahat po ng hinihinging requirements. So, ano-ano po ba yung mga hinihinging requirements? Dito po, para po tayo makapag-take ng examination. And yung first requirement na hinihingi po ay kailangan po tayo ay citizen of the Philippines. So, kailangan ikaw ay isang mamamayan ng bansang Pilipinas. Pero if ever man po na hindi ka mamamayan ng Pilipinas or halimbawa ikaw ay isang alien or foreigner dito sa atin, ay maaari ka lamang po makapag-take ng board examination kung ikaw ay reciprocity ng bansa mo dito sa Pilipinas. When we say reciprocity, ikaw ay ipinadala or exchange students ng bansa mo dito sa Pilipinas para dito ka mag-practice ng teaching profession. So, ang isa pa pong hinihingi requirement ay ikaw ay at least 18 years of age. And then, next na hinihingi requirement ay kailangan ikaw ay in good health and in good reputation with high moral values. So, bakit in good health? So, syempre, kailangan nasa maayos kang kalusugan para if ever man na ikaw ay makapasa ng board examination or ikaw ay magpa-practice ng professional teaching, hindi po magiging sagabal or hindi mo magiging weakness yung health mo sa iyong profession. So, next pa po is yung good reputation. Kailangan meron kang maayos sa background. Maganda yung background mo. And then, letter D is, hindi ka nakulong by the final judgment of the court ng meron kang offense involving moral turpitude. So, ano ba yung mga moral turpitude na offenses? Like yung rape and robbery. Hindi ka nakulong, hindi ka na judge ng korte dahil sa mga kaso na iyon. Kasi po, yun po, bilang ikaw ay isang future teacher, kailangan wala kang background ng mga ganong uri ng kaso. 'Di ba? And then, for last requirement po, ay kailangan ikaw ay graduate ng college, ng university, or ng isang school. Yun po yung isa sa mga hinihingi requirements. And isa sa pinakamahalagang requirements. Kasi before ka makapag-take ng examination, kailangan po ay graduate ka muna ng college. At nagpo-possess ka ng mga minimum educational qualifications. So, kung ikaw ay teacher in preschool, pwede kang mag-take ng board examination. For teachers in preschool, kailangan ikaw ay graduate ng bachelor's degree in early childhood education or its equivalent. So, ayan po sa screen lahat ng kailangan mong graduate ka ng mga ganitong courses para ikaw ay makapag-take ng board examination. So, for teachers in the elementary grades, ayan, bachelor's degree in elementary education or its equivalent. For secondary, nandiyan din po. And for teachers of vocational and 2-year technical courses, nandiyan din po sa screen. So for section 16, report of the results of the examination, dito po nakalpaloob lamang po na ang board po, within 120 days after po ng examination, kailangan po ay may report na po nila lahat po ng ratings na obtain ng bawat candidate sa Professional Regulation Commission. At ang commission na po ang bahala na gumawa po ng kaukulang aksyon at approval sa bawat ratings po na nakuha ng bawat candidate for professional teachers. So for Section 17 po, issuance of Certificate of Registration and Professional License, nakapaloob lamang po dito na tayo po bilang mga future board examiners ay may issuean po tayo ng Certificate of Registration kapag po tayo ay nakapag-complied na po sa lahat po ng hinihinging requirements. And upon payment po natin ng registration fee, ay i-issuehan na po tayo ng Certificate of Registration. So, ang mga nilalaman po ng Certificate of Registration ay yung full name po natin ng mga registrant, tapos yung serial number natin, date of issuance na pinirmahan po ng chairman ng commission, and chairman ng board, vice chairman ng board, at saka ng members ng board. And meron din po yun ng official seal. Meron din, tinatakan po yun ng official seal. And yun po ang pagkakaroon po natin ng Certificate of Registration ay bilang patunay na tayo po ay entitled na mag-practice ng professional teaching sa Pilipinas with full rights and privileges. So if ever man po na tayo ay pumasa sa board examination, tayo po ay issuean ng professional license. At ito pong professional license po natin ay mayroon po yan po ay pipirmahan po ng chairman of the commission. At nakapaloob po dito sa ating lisensya yung registration number po natin, and then date of issuance ng ating lisensya, at saka po yung month ng renewability and expiration ng ating lisensya. So, ito pa pagkakaroon po natin ng professional license or ng lisensya ay isa pong patunay or ebidensya na tayo po ay kinikilala ng batas sa mag-practice ng professional teaching sa bansa natin until the expiration ng validity ng ating lisensya. So, for Section 18 po natin, Oath Before Practice. So, kahit po ang Pangulo po ng Pilipinas, bago po manungkulan yan sa ating bansa, ay sumasailalim po muna ang ating Pangulo sa oath-taking bago po siya manungkulan. So, ganun din po ang guro. Bago po tayo manungkulan, bago po natin tayo sumalang sa ating profession, bago po tayo mag-practice ng professional teaching, ay kinakailangan po muna manumpa po tayo sa ating tungkulin. And meron po tayong mag-commit po tayo sa ating tungkulin. Yun po, manunumpa tayo sa ating tungkulin bago po tayo sumailalim or bago po natin isagawa ang ating profession. So for Section 19, Periodic Merit Examination of Teachers, dito po sa section po na ito ay nakapaloob na hindi po ibig sabihin na pag po guro na po ang isang tao, ay alam na po niya ang lahat ng bagay. So kahit po teacher ka, ay continuous pa rin po ang iyong growth, professional growth and development. So, ito po merit examination is magiging daan din po ito. Ang pagtitake po natin ng merit examination ay magiging daan po para po tayo po ay ma-promote sa ating profession. So, magiging basis din po ito for promotion. And then, ito po merit examination ay pwede pong i-take or undergo either written or oral at least once in 5 years. And, ang pagtitake po natin ng merit examination ay wala pong fee or wala pong kayong kailangan bayaran sa pagtitake ng examination po na ito. So, for Section 20, failure to pass the merit examination. So, if ever man po na hindi mo maipasa ang iyong merit examination for the first time na ikaw ay mag-take nito, mabibigyan ka pa rin po or binibigyan ka pa rin po ng second time to take the examination. And then, if ever man na hindi mo pa rin po maipasa ang examination for the second time, ikaw po ay kailangan na pong kumuha ng DSC refresher course or program. And then kapag po yun, na-take mo na po yung DSC refresher course na yun or program, and tsaka ka lamang po mabibigyan ng or maa-allow na mag-take ulit ng merit examination after mo pong ma-take yung program po na iyon. And then ito rin pong ito rin pong pagkaka-fail natin sa merit examination ay pwede din pong maging dahilan yun para po tayo ay ma-dismiss or ma-demote sa ating profession. So that's it, guys. Thank you for listening. So meron pa pong natitirang sections from section 21 to 26. So andyan na po si Shane Reyes para po i-discuss sa inyo ang sections 21 and 26 of the Article 3 Examination and Registration. So thank you guys for listening.
To give us more information about this topic, I am glad to present to you our next speaker as she believes in the saying that fear is not a good teacher. The lesson of the fear are quickly forgotten. Here is Ms. Shane Reyes to continue the discussion.
Section 20. Failure to pass the merit examination. If a teacher fails to pass the examination, there is still a second chance. Then when he fails again in the second time, the teacher will be required to take a DECS, Department of Education, Culture and Sports, which means to provide and promote the value education at all 3 levels of the educational system for the development of the human person committed to the building of a just and human society, democratic and independent nation. Section 21. Incentives. Teachers who pass the merit examination shall A. Be awarded a diploma of merit by the board, B. Earn merit points for purposes of promotion in salary or to a higher position or grade level, C. Be placed in the priority list for government scholarship, and D. Enjoy such other benefits as may be promulgated by the board. Section 22. Integration of the teaching profession. The teaching profession shall be integrated into one national organization which shall be recognized by the board and the commission as the one and only integrated and accredited association of professional teachers. Upon registration with the board, every professional teacher shall be encouraged to become a member of the integrated national organization. Those who have been registered with the board but are not members of the said integrated organization shall be allowed to register as members of the said integrated organization within 3 years after the effectivity of this act. Membership in the integrated organization shall not be a bar to membership in other associations of the teaching profession. The professional teacher shall receive the benefits and privileges appertinent to their membership in the said integrated and accredited organization of professional teachers only upon payment of the required membership fees and dues. Section 23. Revocation of the certificate of registration, suspension from the practice of the teaching profession, and cancellation of temporary of special permit. The board has the power to suspend or revoke the certificate of registration of any registrar, to reprimand or to cancel the temporary or special permit of a holder thereof who is exempt from registration for any of these. A. Conviction for any criminal offense by a court of competent jurisdiction. B. Immoral, unprofessional, or dishonorable conduct. C. Declaration by a court of competent jurisdiction for being mentally unsound or insane. D. Malpractice, gross incompetence, gross negligence, or serious ignorance of the practice of teaching profession. E. The use of the or perpetration of any fraud or deceit in obtaining a certificate of registration, professional license, or temporary or special permit. F. Chronic inebriety or habitual use of drugs, CROLO. G. Violation of any of the provisions of this Act, the rules and regulation, and other policies of the Board and the Commissions, and the Code of Ethical and Professional Standards for Professional Teachers. And H. Unjustified or willful failure to attend seminars, workshops, conferences, and the like, or the continuing education program prescribed by the Board and the Commission. Section 24. Registration by reciprocity. No teacher of a foreign nationality shall be admitted to the examination or be given a certificate of registration or be entitled to any of the rights and privileges provided under this Act, unless the country or state of which he is a subject permits Filipino professional teachers to practice within its territorial limits on the same basis as subject or citizens of said country or state, provided that the requirements of certification of teachers with said foreign state or country are substantially the same as those required and contemplated under this Act, provided further that the laws of such state or country grant the same privilege to Filipino professional teachers on the same basis as the subject or citizens of such foreign country or state. Section 25. Roster of Professional Teacher. A roster of professional teachers containing the names and addresses of professional teachers, date of registration or issuance of certificate, and other data which in the opinion of the Board may appear pertinent shall be maintained. Copies of the roster shall be provided by the Commission of the Board, the Department of Education, Culture and Sports, and the integrated and accredited organizations of professional teachers. Section 26. Registration and Exemption. 2 years after the effectivity of this Act, no person shall engage in teaching or act as a professional teacher as defined in this Act, whether in the preschool, elementary, or secondary level, unless he is a duly registered professional teacher and the holder of a valid certificate of registration and a valid professional license, or a holder of a valid special or temporary permit. Upon approval of the application and payment of the prescribed fees, the certificate of registration and professional license as a professional teacher shall be issued without examination as required in this Act to qualified applicant, who at the same time of this approval of this Act. Provided that they shall be given 2 years from the organization of the Board for professional teachers within which to register and be included in the roster of professional teachers. Provided further that those incumbent teachers who are not qualified to register without examination under this Act, or who, albeit qualified, were unable to register within 2 years period, shall be issued a 5 years temporary or special permit from the time the Board is organized within which to register after the passing the examination and complying with the requirements provided this Act, and be included in the roster of professional teachers. Provided, furthermore, that those who fail the licensure examination for professional teachers shall be eligible as para-teachers, and as such shall be issued by the Board a special or temporary permit, and shall be assigned by the Department of Education, Culture and Sport, or DECS, to schools as it may determine under the circumstances.
She believes that success is not a good teacher. Failure make you humble. She is Miss Giselle Mendoza to give us important lesson about the provision relatives to the practice of teaching profession.
Article 4. Provisions relative to the practice of the teaching profession. Article 4, Section 27. If you don't have valid certificate or valid professional ID, You shall not practice the teaching profession because it's against the Article 4, Section 27. Article 4, Section 28. Penal provisions. The following shall be punishable by a fine of not less than 5,000 pesos nor more than 20,000 pesos, or imprisonment or nor less than 6 months nor more than 5 years, or both at the discretion of the court. A. Any person who practices the teaching profession in the Philippines without being certified in accordance with the provisions of this Act. B. Any person who represents or attempts to use at his own certificate of registration that of another. C. Any person who gives any false of fraudulent evidence of any kind to the board or any member thereof in obtaining a certificate of registration as teacher. D. Any person who impersonates any registrants at the same of registrations. E. Any person who uses a revoked or suspended certificate of registrations. F. Any person who in connection with his name otherwise assumes, uses, or advertises any title or description tending to convey or conveys the impressions that he is a teacher without holding a valid certificate. And G. Any person who violates or who abets the violation of any provisions of this Act. Article 4, Section 29. Appropriations, such sums as may be necessary to carry out the provisions of this Act shall be included in the 1996 General Appropriations Act and thereafter. Article 4, Section 30. Implementing Guidelines. The Board shall formulate and adopt the necessary guidelines for the effective implementation of the provisions of this Act within 60 days of its approval. The Board shall be submit to both communities or education, arts and culture, and the committees on civil service and professional regulation of the Senate and House of Representatives copies of the implementing rules and guidelines within 30 days after its promulgation. Any violation of this section shall render the officials concerned liable under Republic Act No. 6713, otherwise known as the Code of the Conduct and Ethical Standards for Public Officials and Employees, and other pertinent administrative and or penal laws. Article 4, Section 31. Transitory Provision. All incumbent teachers in both the public and the private sector not otherwise certified as professional teachers by virtue of this Act shall be given 5 years temporary certificates from the time the Board for Professional Teachers is recognized within which to qualify as required by this Act be included in the roster of professionals, provided, however, that the Professional Board examination for teachers shall still be administered by the Civil Service Commission and the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports for the year 1995 CROLO. Article 4, Section 32. Separability Clause. If, for any reason, any section or provision of this Act or the application of this section or provision to any person or circumstances is declared unconstitutionally or invalid, no other section or provision of this Act shall be affected thereby. Article 4, Section 33. Repealing Clause. All laws, presidential decrees, executive orders, rules, and regulation, or parts thereof inconsistent with the provision of this Act, are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. Article 4, Section 34. Effectivity Clause. This Act shall take effect after 15 days following its complete publication in this official gazette on into newspaper or general circulation.
And for our last speaker, He believes that to teach is to learn twice over. Here is Mr. Mark Lawrence Evangelista to give us a lot of lessons about the Republic Act 9293.
Good day everyone, and to my fellow participants, I would like to discuss or to explain the importance of the Republic Act of the Philippines Congress of the Philippines Metro Manila in the 12th Congress of the Republic Act 9293. In the Republic Act of 7836, it is stated that also known as the Philippine Teachers Professionalization Act of 1994. Ang sinasabi lang po dito is yung mga gampanin ng isang practice teacher na kung saan kaya niyang i-handle ang pagiging ganap na isang guro sa pamamagitan ng pagkuha ng License Board Examination for Teachers at yung mga regulations, protocols, at supervision na kailangan niyang bigyang pansin sa lalong mas madaling panahon. Ano ba ang ibig sabihin para sa atin ng salitang propesyon? As a future teacher, ito yung pinangahawakan mo para sa ating pangarap. Profession means think a lot of situation that is relevant to enhance kasi may iba't ibang in fact intelligences ang bawat tao sa kanilang aspeto ng buhay. Ang gusto ng iba is tahakin ang tamang daan patungo sa pangarap na inaasam. The main objective of this is to know the most important things section indeed to this Congress. And these are: let's start in Section 1 or the qualification requirements of all applicants. In this section, the developer of taking the examination of all teachers na kailangan na ang lahat ng aplikante is masundan at alamin ang tamang bawat proseso directly to the point of common good and have a common sense of knowledge in specific information na kailangan nating maisaisip. Ano ba ang mga dapat tandaan o requirements sa board exam for teachers? Number 1, kailangan ang isang aplikante is graduate sa eskwelahan ng universidad. Pangalawa, ang mga aplikante is may iba't ibang bachelor degree courses of education like early childhood education for elementary, Bachelor of Elementary Education for high school, Bachelor of Secondary Education, and for vocational courses, Bachelor of Physical Education and Bachelor of Technology Livelihood Education. For bachelor degree naman, kailangan yung minor at major subject mo is equivalent siya at least 18 units. Si teacher, siya yung nagsisilbing pangalawang ina or ama ng bawat estudyante na nakikilala nila. Hindi madaling maging isang guro dahil meron silang mga pamantayan na dapat naaayon at detalyado yung mga impormasyon na itinuturo nila sa bawat bata. Kaya nga minsan hindi na nila nabibigyan ng oras yung family nila. Pero humahanap naman sila ng paraan o way para mapasaya nila ito. Next is the Section 2 o ang tinatawag natin na Registration and Exceptions. In this section, you will be able to pass the examination for teachers or the board exam indeed to this degree. You also have a holder of valid certificate of being one of the professional teachers duly established and constituted under this act. Ang Department of Education ang magbibigay o magpro-provide ng Commission of Highly Specific Standard ng isang ganap na guro para mabigyan ka ng ID o ang tinatawag natin na Identification Card License that's signed by the oath-taking ceremony at the Baguio City of all LPT passers. At para naman sa mga professional teachers na hindi na nila na-practice ang kanilang mga profesyon for the past 5 years, kinakailangan nilang kumuha at least 12 units of education, 6 units of pedagogy, and 6 units of content and courses for the number of hours and training as a para-teacher. Ano ba yung tinatawag natin na para-teacher? Yung para-teacher, ito yung mga nakapasa na sa board exam, nung matagal nang nagtuturo sa industriya sa mga public schools. Section 3 o ang tinatawag natin na transitory provision. Sa section na ito, kinakailangan ng special permits or contract issues na hindi bababa sa 3 to 5 years of valid presentable of all professional teachers. At para naman sa mga hindi board passer na teacher, meron silang expiration date, contract issues or valid permission ng Department of Education na mawala ang visa nila sa pagtuturo sa public schools na hindi bababa sa 2 to 3 years at ibabalik sila sa private schools. Section 4 o ang tinatawag natin na references to the term of the Department, Culture and Sports. Dito, kinakailangan ang Department of Education na mag-recommend at maintindihan ang lahat ng aspeto ng guro na nakapaloob ukol sa pangangailangan ng isang teacher. Hindi lang sa iba't ibang bachelor degree, kundi pati na rin sa Department of Culture and Sports, visual aspects of education ng mga edukadong tao. Next is the Section 5 o ang tinatawag natin na separability clause. Dito na pumapasok o yung tinatarget na is yung mga regulation, protocols, and provision na kailangan ng isang guro sa pagtuturo without any invalid reason according to the act that shall be not affected. For the Section 6 or the repealing clause, si teacher dapat sundin niya yung mga batas, tas yung mga gampanin ukol sa mga rules and regulations ng isang teacher na kailangan niyang isaalang-alang para sa kanyang pagtuturo ay accurate, tama, at consistent siya sa bawat kilos o galaw na kanyang binibitawan. Section 7 o ang tinatawag natin na effectivity. Ito yung pinakamasarap pakinggan sa lahat. Yung sasabihan ka ng approve dahil nakamit mo na yung pangarap mo at yung gusto mong preposyon para sa pamilya mo at para sa sarili mo sa tulong ng ating Panginoong may kapal. Magbigay tayo ng isang halimbawa dito, katulad na lang ng paggawa ng isang thesis. Diba? May 5 chapters na nakapaloob sa isang research. Kapag nasundan mo yung mga hakbang na andon ay binigay ng teacher mo at detalyado at tama yung ginawa mo, may possibility na magkaroon ka ng mataas na marka at i-approach pa ng teacher mo yung ginawa mong thesis. Dahil nga maganda ang kinalabasan ng paggawa ng thesis mo, wala ka nang iintindihin pang hirap at magiging masaya ka na. Yung paggawa ng isang research ay pwede nating i-relate yung pagkamit ng mga pangarap natin sa ating buhay. As a future teacher, dadaan muna tayo sa paghihirap bago natin makamit ito. Susundin muna natin yung mga rules, regulations na kailangan ng isang guro. At syempre, kailangan nating mag-review para sa board exam at pag nakapasa tayo doon, mabibigyan na tayo ng license na makapagturo sa iba't ibang public schools. Di ba napakasarap sa pakiramdam na kapag nakamit mo yung pangarap mo para sa sarili mo, dahil na rin sa tulong ng pamilya mo at ni Lord, yung paghihirap ng magulang mo is mapapalitan mo na. Ano-ano ba yung mga dapat nating tandaan o tips para makamit natin yung pangarap natin? Una, maniwala ka sa sarili mo. Pangalawa, i-enjoy mo lang ang life kahit mahirap yan. Pangatlo, maging positive ka, huwag kang mag-iisip na kung ano-anong negative na ikasisira ng buhay mo. At pang-apat, lagi mong isama si God at yung pamilya mo sa pagkamit ng pangarap mo. I hope na may natutunan kayo sa amin. God bless always and keep safe everyone ko and 1E. Goodbye and thank you.
If there's anyone who in a position to bring positive change into the world every day, it's teacher. Don't ever think that your effort as a teacher are insignificant and make no difference. There is no telling what positive effect you will have on someone's life, especially a student. Brave, stay passionate about your kid and work, and don't give up ever.
If we create a culture where every teacher believes They need to improve, not because they are not good enough, but because they can be even better. There is no limit to what we can achieve.
Once again, thank you for all the speakers for joining us today in our webinar about professionalization of teaching. May you learn a lot in today's agenda.
Thank you also to all the people who participate in this activity. May we give you some lesson and inspiration to continue pursuing your dream. We are hoping that you are enjoying and you have fun in this afternoon.
And again, I'm Heidi de la Paz Gutierrez
And Princess Nicole S. Lugod, your host for today.
Keep safe.
God bless. And once again, good afternoon, Ka-Ed 1E. Good day ahead.